Like I said, if you suspect you have low progesterone or you've been told you have low progesterone, you might be experiencing some of these symptoms. PMS, mood swings, anxiety, especially leading up to your period, spotting before your period, short cycles, which would qualify as anything less than 25 days in total. So from day one of period to day one of your next period, it's less than 25 days. If you have a short luteal phase, so that's after ovulation, if that is less than 10 days, that would be considered a shorter luteal phase. Ideal is between 12, or we could say 11 up to 14 days. If you are having fertility challenges or recurrent miscarriages, we need progesterone to help maintain a healthy pregnancy. If you're having sleep issues and insomnia, especially in that late luteal phase, and then luteal phase or pre-period bloating, changes in your digestion, and breast tenderness. All of these signs and symptoms point towards low progesterone and hormone imbalances, in particular with estrogen and progesterone balance. So in this quick video, I really just want to give you some tips for supporting progesterone production, but also we need to talk about addressing why it's low in the first place. So I can't just give you this list of eat these 3 foods or do these 3 things. I see a lot of women do that, and they'll kind of put Band-Aid approaches on their progesterone. So they'll take progesterone cream or bioidentical progesterone, or maybe something like Vitex, or focus on specific herbs to boost progesterone. But because low progesterone isn't actually the root cause, we're told that, oh, this is the issue or the reason behind all of your symptoms. It's actually just a reflection of something deeper going on in your body. And that's ultimately what we want to uncover and what we want to address. And there are definitely times and places for some of those Band-Aid-y things, especially for symptom management. If you have terrible PMS, if you're trying to get pregnant, if you are dealing with a lot of fatigue and spotting and things like that leading up to your period. But we still want to look at why progesterone is low in the first place. Otherwise, you're going to stay stuck in the same frustrating symptom cycle, and you'll also likely have signs and symptoms of other hormone imbalances because you haven't addressed that root cause. So before I get into the 3 strategies, I want to talk about why progesterone might be low in the first place. These are some of the common things that we see. And I also want to make a note that your body only makes progesterone after you ovulate. So ovulation really is the main event of your cycle. If you're not ovulating regularly or at all every single cycle, then your progesterone is going to be low. You also might be ovulating and just not producing adequate levels of progesterone. Either way, we want to support healthy ovulation. So why does this actually happen? Like I said, not ovulating, but if you're not tracking, you don't really know. So if you're just relying on a prediction app to tell you when your period's coming, you might not be actually ovulating or confirming those signs and symptoms. We look at changes in body temperature and changes in cervical mucus. Number 2, if you are under eating and or over exercising, your body is going to be extra stressed out and it's not going to prioritize hormone production. Low thyroid function. This is a big one we see, especially with our fertility clients and clients who have heavy or irregular cycles. Maybe they've been diagnosed with PCOS, but thyroid production and progesterone production go hand in hand, because when thyroid slows down, this basically sets the pace for anything else in your body that requires energy, and that interferes with that production of progesterone. Next is chronic stress. So chronic stress can be real, perceived, imagined. It might be obvious or it might be not obvious. Chronic stress can come from environmental factors. It can come from mental and emotional factors, or it can come from physical factors like gut issues, blood sugar imbalances, and undereating and overexercising. But if you are chronically stressed, cortisol is high, that is going to pull from the raw materials that we need for progesterone production. Next is low cholesterol. This is a common pattern I see, especially in clients who are under eating or actually not breaking down fat very well. And this leads to low cholesterol levels, which we need cholesterol for sex hormones. It's literally the backbone for sex hormones. And then last but not least is hormonal birth control use, current or history use. So long-term hormonal birth control basically shuts down ovulation. Obviously, we know that that's how we prevent pregnancy, but it can take time for that communication to come back online between your brain and your ovaries, and that leads to an ovulatory or no ovulation each cycle, and it can also lead to just overall poor signaling and production of progesterone. So instead of just adding progesterone in, we are looking at some of these underlying factors. And while we do that, for example, if you have a hard time breaking down fats and have low cholesterol, if you're under eating, over exercising, if you have low thyroid function, maybe your TSH is at 3.0 and you were told that that was normal, this is where we have to do some more long-term work to improve those areas. But I want to give you some kind of short and sweet strategies that you can think about right now. So first and foremost, supporting ovulation. So obviously we're zooming out and looking at big picture, and then the things that you can do to support ovulation. So number one, non-negotiable for making progesterone is ovulating every single cycle. Most women do this between day, we'll say 12 to like 14 or 15-ish. If you have a longer cycle, you probably ovulate a little bit later. If you have a shorter cycle, you probably ovulate a little bit shorter. But the first step to this is tracking for ovulation. So we use basal body temperature, or BBT. We want to see an increase from 97.5 in the first half of your cycle up to 98.6 in the second half of your cycle. That increase in body temperature correlates with the production of progesterone. Progesterone is very heat producing. Side note, this is also why your metabolic rate increases in the second half of your cycle. And if you're not meeting that increase in energy needs, you might feel more tired or have more cravings. And overall, your body is under a little bit more stress. So that's one way we track. Another way is cervical mucus. We want to see changes in your cervical mucus. So it changes to a more clear egg white consistency that is basically signaling peak fertility and that you are ovulating. And then LH strips can also be helpful to confirm if you ovulated. And those are three of the main tools that we like to use. This is also part of what we call the fertility awareness method. That's what we use with our clients who don't want to be on birth control, are transitioning off of birth control, don't want to get pregnant, or are trying to get pregnant. Second tip to support ovulation is eating enough food, especially carbohydrates and protein. I feel like protein gets a lot of attention, especially on social media these days, but carbohydrates are going to be super, super important. Under eating and restricting carbohydrates not only shuts down ovulation, but it also slows your thyroid function and slows your metabolic function. Carbohydrates are also a great way to let the body know that it's getting fuel, that's easy to access, and it feels safe and it feels nourished. And the last thing about carbohydrates, two more things about carbohydrates. One, they feature good gut bacteria, which we need for healthy metabolism and hormones, and estrogen detoxification. And two, they provide a lot of key minerals, which I'll get to in just a second. And then the third tip is to support your thyroid. Low thyroid function, we know, is one of the root cause drivers of low progesterone, and it can interfere with ovulation as well. And again, we see this in a lot of our fertility clients. But if we don't have a well-functioning thyroid, which can happen for a multitude of reasons, that's likely going to show up with the production of progesterone and sex hormones as well. So that is the first tip, supporting ovulation by way of those three kind of like sub tips. Strategy number two is to support blood sugar balance. Blood sugar swings and chronic stress, those are the two, I would say, biggest hormone disruptors, whether it's related to progesterone or ovulation or imbalances with testosterone and estrogen. It all goes hand in hand. So to have balanced hormones, we really have to have balanced blood sugar. That is a non-negotiable. And what happens when blood sugar is unstable and we're riding that blood sugar roller coaster is basically a huge stressor on the body. And this stressor, combined with a lot of other stressors we might be putting our body into, we're basically stuck in that fight or flight mode. And if we're in fight or flight, it's going to prioritize survival over reproduction. Your body's like, I don't need to have, or I can't have another child. Whether you want to have children or not, it's more so related to that production in hormones. So this can lead to low progesterone just by being under stress and on that blood sugar roller coaster. So in order to address this, we need to focus on balanced blood sugar. We have the M's that we focus on with our clients and inside the Well Nourished program. So minerals, meal timing, macronutrient balance, movement, and menstrual cycle, because your blood sugar changes throughout the menstrual cycle. So those are the M's that we focus on to support blood sugar. It is not about cutting out sugar or just cutting out carbs. The second piece is to eat enough total calories. Just under eating in and of itself is going to be a stressor on the body. Most women, this is going to be well over 2,000 calories, especially if you're active. But a lot of women are unintentionally under eating and they feel like they can't eat enough, or they're intentionally dieting and trying to stick to unrealistic 1,500 or 1,600 calories a day. And then the third piece is to support stress resiliency. So we don't need to get rid of or eliminate all stress, but we need to support our body's resiliency. And also noting that stress can be emotional, it can be physical, it can be even from just under eating or dealing with gut issues. We need to look at things that are within our control. So things like getting sleep, 8 hours, getting sunlight, especially in the morning, limiting screen time and social media, and having boundaries around the information that we're taking in is huge. And then other nervous system support tools that work well for you. And we give our clients different options for how to incorporate nervous system practices into their day that they feel like actually work and aren't adding more to their plate or feeling more stressful. But the bottom line here is that if your body feels basically undernourished and not safe, it's not going to ovulate. And so we know that that inhibits progesterone production. So by feeling safe, feeling nourished, it's going to ovulate. It's going to do what it needs to do in terms of producing adequate amounts of hormones and at the right time. And then last strategy is to replenish key nutrients. This is where lab testing is really, really helpful. And this is kind of the final piece, the cherry on top. This is why we use hair tissue mineral analysis and why we use functional comprehensive blood labs. We're not just looking at a basic metabolic panel. We're looking at your copper, full iron panel, vitamin A. We're looking at zinc, magnesium, all of these different things that play a really important role in your hormones. And with these specific minerals and nutrients that I'm going to go over, they're basically the building blocks for progesterone production. So they don't contain progesterone by themselves. There's no progesterone containing food, but they do help to indirectly support progesterone production. So first and foremost, one of my favorites is actually vitamin C, and that's whole food vitamin C. So not ascorbic acid, whole food vitamin C. This is going to support your adrenals and lower stress on the body. Side note, vitamin C combined with sea salt is one of the best things you can do for your stress response, your cortisol, and your adrenals. And then we have key minerals. Magnesium, sodium, potassium, and iodine are really, really important for hormone signaling and also for ovarian function and the health of your ovaries, especially iodine. So those are ones that we cannot overlook. And we can see the levels of these within your hair tissue mineral analysis to figure out exactly what you need to prioritize. And then I kind of mentioned this one before, but healthy carbs, great way to lower stress on the body, and healthy fats. Fats are the backbone for sex hormone production, basically the raw materials that we need for sex hormones. We also need to break them down well. So if you don't have adequate bile production to break down fats and you're eating healthy fats, we need to actually support that breakdown of healthy fats. And then we also need carbohydrates to fuel our thyroid function and for healthy ovulation. And to give you kind of a good range or rule of thumb, I don't recommend going anywhere below 150 grams of carbs, focusing on whole food sources, of course. And then last but not least is B vitamins, specifically B6 and B12. These are critical for ovulation and also for hormone conversion. We need healthy levels of B vitamins for progesterone production in particular. So quick recap on all of that. Number one, support ovulation. Number two, balance blood sugar and reduce stress or build stress resiliency. And number three is to replenish key nutrients, vitamin C, key minerals, B vitamins, and bonus is doing functional labs to test and see what you're actually low in and where you need to replenish these nutrient stores. And the last thing I'll say is that we see all of these needing support even in our clients who are eating really healthy whole foods. So just because you're eating healthy whole foods or just because you're taking a multivitamin, which I do not recommend because they're kind of jack of all trades, master of none, and they have a lot of competing nutrients within one sort of capsule, we need to make sure that we are addressing each one of these areas individually and really honing in and kind of like fine tuning and dialing in on what your body needs. So to wrap things up, and if you're watching this to this point, you probably know that there's a reason for your symptoms. They're not random. Your body is speaking to you, and we just need to figure out what it's trying to tell us. So you don't have to guess. We can get to the bottom of this very easily. We use a very thorough root cause assessment. We use functional labs. We dig deeper into your health history, day in a life, your nutrition, your lifestyle, supplement routine, all of those things. And ultimately helping you get to the root cause of your hormone symptoms. That is what we want to do. So this is exactly what I help my clients do inside Well Nourished and in a one-on-one capacity as well. So if this is something you're interested in and you're ready to get more support, you can either DM me on Instagram, the word hormones, and I can send you a link to apply to work with us, Or if you want to, we can get on a free call, talk a little bit more about your specific needs and circumstances, and just figure out what is the best fit. So I hope this was helpful for you. And if you want any elaboration or you want me to cover any more topics around anything that I talked about today, let me know and I'm happy to create another video for you.